Man, I think I got a tire going down on my chair here, so yeah, let's just get into this race. Hey guys, Ryan here, and we are back with yet another race review here. I just got done watching the whatever this is, the Spring Kansas race. So yeah. Um it was a fun race through and through, but unfortunately, one of the things that led to a lot of the drama, especially late in this race, also were some of the biggest points of controversy in this race. So, to start, I'm just gonna go down the top 10 finishers. Shout out a couple other notables, then we'll get to the big thing of the race. So, let's go. So, we had a pretty fun duel for the final 20-30 laps of the race, set up between Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, and Kyle Larson. Those three were set up to put on probably one of the great duels of the decade. Over the last 25-30 laps of the race, those three ultimately coming home in that order: Kurt, Kyle Larson, and then Kyle Busch. Toyota having a really big turnaround day. That was another kind of storyline going in, is that Toyota had really struggled outside of the Bristol Dirt Race, which Kyle lucked into, and Denny Hamlin's Richmond win, which is still up until today, Denny's only top 5 finish of the season. But they had 5 cars in the top 6 spots, so seems like Toyota's got something figured out at least. Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, rounding out your top 5. MTJ 6th. 7th, Chastain. Chastain continuing his amazing run of consistency, which will potentially land him in the championship 4 at Phoenix later this year. 2 wins already on the season for him, so no real worry about the playoffs. Stenhouse with his 4th straight top 10 finish at tracks not named Daytona or Talladega. So 4 straight finishes inside the top 10 at tracks he typically isn't necessarily considered the best at. Yeah, and he did all of those top 10s he's done pretty quietly rather than the normal crash your way to the front style. Alex Bowman gets a top 10. Bubba Wallace managed to just about get into the top 10, and you might notice no Fords inside the top 10. So I don't know what was going on with the Fords. I know they had a bit of trouble with the. I know Kevin Harvick specifically had a bit of trouble with the tires. Logano was kind of mired in traffic most of the day after starting from the rear of the field and never really having clean air. So he was kind of mired back. Noah Gragson getting his first top 20 finish in his Young Cup Series career as a part-timer in the number 16 car, so good for him. Allmendinger will be in that car next week at Texas for the All-Star race. I think that's our last notable finisher, at least in terms of notable for good reasons. Elliot and Reddick both finished down the order for different reasons. On to the controversial part of this race, because the tires. NASCAR needs to talk with Goodyear about figuring out what to do with these tires for the later Kansas race so that we don't have this race again. Because while it was a fantastic finish built up with those 3 drivers mentioned earlier, Kurt, Kyle, and Kyle, you had so many tire issues right around that 25-30-ish lap mark. And very few tires were actually able to last past that point. And honestly, that seems a bit ridiculous when you consider the fact that this race was 267 laps, if I'm not mistaken. 267 laps. So, and you could only go about 25 on a set of tires without risking it blowing out on you. say, especially with the fuel run, and we didn't have this problem last year, so I'm guessing it's something to do with the new thinner tire, lower profile tire because of the larger rim. So I think NASCAR and Goodyear need to be immediately looking into this as a potential trouble spot. Luckily, we go to a couple of smooth tracks that have been repaved in the last couple of years. Charlotte was repaved, I believe, back in 2018, and Texas was repaved back at the start of the 2017 season. So, in terms of high tire wear, we shouldn't have that problem again for at least 2 or 3 weeks. So, we have some time to figure this out, especially before the fall Kansas race in the playoffs. But yeah, this was not a great start for the for at least one of the better mile and a halves on the circuit. And then you had, amidst all these tire issues, you had a bit of inconsistency in when you throw the caution. You had Byron cut a tire down from the race lead, didn't spin out, kept the car under control, just off the pace, stayed on the track, but out of the primary racing groove, and ultimately limped it back to pit road. No caution, sure. If that's the way we want to enforce it for at least this race, it might not be hyper specific to how we've enforced it in the past, but sure, we'll go with it for this week at least. Then you had Tyler Reddick go and slam the wall pretty hard, ultimately breaking his car and leaving him trapped down in that 30th position most of the race. And he got to pit road, but normally that's slamming to the outside wall. That's pretty hard damage. I mean, we saw it at Martinsville earlier this year with Todd Gilliland. So it's like, okay, well, I guess we're being extremely lenient on cautions to try and cut down on yellow flag laps. Especially since at that point in the race we'd already had a lot of yellows in the race, so it would make sense that, okay, maybe we don't need to push that hard on trying to get all the yellows out of it. Then we had Kevin Harvick just lose control of the car, spin sideways, maybe hit the wall. It was really light if he did hit the wall, and if he didn't hit the wall, he didn't hit the wall. Saved it, didn't blow a tire, and kept going at a moderate racing speed, and we got a caution. So, I mean, this really gives me vibes back to how NASCAR was at the 2021 Spring Kansas race in terms of when to call the yellow. Of course, if you guys don't remember, that was a race where a couple of drivers, Stenhouse and Buescher, I think were the notable ones, were trying to stay out and work a fuel strategy when they heard that there was a tire loose in the grass per the normal NASCAR policies. Yellow should have come out, but it didn't. Until right after they both had pit. So ultimately, again, this race gives me a bad taste in my mouth after, especially the last time we had a spring Kansas race, we had similar issues with the officiating. Also, Harvick's tire being cut down, or not tire being cut down, but the yellow for potentially a tire cut or something. So yeah, after those two spins from Reddick, which broke his car, and Byron with a flat tire, we had a flat tire from Elliot where Elliot spun across the grid and got stuck in the grass, and that ultimately brought out the yellow right in the middle of in the middle of green flag pit stops, putting most of the field lap down, and now you have the race completely flipped on its head. A lot of drivers who probably didn't deserve it were near the front. McDowell not having the best of days. He was up in the top 5. Austin Dillon had stayed out to that point. Josh Bilicki was up there. Todd Gilliland was working a strategy up in the top 10 because they hadn't stopped yet. So, luckily, with the wave around and the amount of laps left, most of the front runners were still able to make it back to the front, but it's kind of a bummer that we wait till the middle of green flag pit stops to actually call a yellow for a tire cut down. Especially when it's like, okay, the leader cuts a tire. No need for a caution. Another fast car that's been competitive all day hits the wall not once but twice and no caution. So it's like, okay, how long are we waiting for a more serious incident to happen? Were we waiting for pit cycles to start so that we could have a issue? But yeah, ultimately, just seems like a situation that could have been avoided somewhat easily. But yeah, ultimately, it wasn't. So looking forward to the Texas All-Star race next week. Format's a bit simpler than last year, so yeah, we went through the top finishers. Yeah, again, just kind of a bad taste left in my mouth after that race because again, the tires definitely need to be worked on. NASCAR race control, if this is the way they want to call races going forward, that's how we need to operate the full time. Because this is very different from how they've been calling it even earlier this year. In particular, Martinsville, where we had 2 cautions for stuff that probably didn't need to happen. So it's like, okay, just try and find a sweet spot, or at least establish a new consistency. If this is the new normal that you want for NASCAR caution calling, I'm okay with that. Just try and keep it consistent. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, leave a like on the video, subscribe if you guys are new, and remember to share it around with all your friends and other NASCAR fans. But this has been Ryan with Running with the Pack. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next video, live stream, or whatever you guys decide to do with the rest of your day. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye!